All right, my name is Shawn D, entrepreneur, founder, and chairman of LoveSac, a budding world brand with retail stores all around the United States and Australia. Founded the company a decade ago, just out of high school, and have been rocking it ever since. Been involved with a number of businesses in between now and then. And you know, along my travels, along my development as a business person, I've founded my own personal 5 rules of business that I'm going to share with you right now. Number 1, do something. I meet entrepreneurs every day. You know, after I give a speech, they might come up and say, "Hey, I've got this idea. You know, I really appreciate what you've done, and I've been thinking about doing this for so long, but you know, I've got a kid and I can't leave my job, and I'm really, you know." And the truth is that you know, it's not about leaving your job or you know, taking some huge risk. It's about doing anything. It's about making something. It's about trying something. And you know, I've heard a million ideas, but the difference I think between you know myself and many wannabe business people is that I did it. You know, I'm 18 years old. I got off the sofa. I drove down to the fabric store, bought some fabric, and filled it with foam. And 3 years later, I was selling sacks to my friends and family, you know, around the university. And LoveSac was born. So that's my first rule. Number 2, be what you will be, not what you are. You know, at 18 years old with a couple friends as partners, you know, we were nothing. Until finally, I said, damn it, we are the best not beanbag company in the world. And I credit carded my way to Chicago to this trade show where you sell promotional products. And we pitched LoveSac as the hot promotional product of the year. In other words, put your logo on my sack. Like the Chicago Bulls sack, the Michelob sack, the Budweiser sack, the Coca-Cola sack, the Red Bull sack. And we sold this product, this bag full of foam, as a promotional product. We secured an order for 12,000 sacks from the Limited Corporation, one of the biggest retailers in the United States of America. Of course, they didn't know that it was just me and my buddies in the basement. They called me up 2 weeks after the show, and I said, you know, LoveSac Corporation, and they ordered 12,000 sacks. I was down there stuffing a sack covered in foam, being what I was gonna be, which was the best not damn beanbag company in the world. And I said, there's no problem, we can do this. And I hung up the phone, and they said, we need 12,000 of these little sacks. And I didn't know how I was going to find this 30,000 yards of purple fuzzy fabric with little silver specks in it. But I finally did find it, and I had to fly to China to procure it. Been very fortunate. I'm fluent in Mandarin Chinese, learned it when I was 19 years old. Lived in China for 3 years of my life, somewhere in between there. And I secured 30,000 yards of fabric from a Chinese supplier who needed a $65,000 deposit. Well, I'm 24 years old at the time. I have no money. I have really no family money, and had to do it somehow, which brings me to rule number 3, which is embrace economic pressure. You cannot play if you're not ready to pay. And I called the Limited Corporation from China, and I said, okay, I'm over here, I'm at my factory, I'm ready to go, I've got this 30,000 yards of purple fuzzy fabric ready to be sewn into little sacks for you to sell at Christmas. And they said, all right, great. And I said, you know, wire me $65,000 as a deposit and we'll get it started. And they said, well, you know, we're the Limited Corporation, we don't give deposits. And I said, well, you know, we're LoveSac. I've never done a deal without a deposit. What's wrong with you? And we went back and forth for days, and finally, you know, they hung up and said, they said, all right, and they wired me $65,000 to my credit union account. I wired that money to my manufacturer in China, who proceeded to make the sacks for me, and you know, sew the empty shells. And then I had to go back home and build a factory. I had to stuff 12,000 little sacks with shredded Durafoam in 4 months' time. And I had to build a factory using farm equipment meant to shred up hay, paid for on credit cards that I had just applied for. And so embrace economic pressure, because I'll tell you what, after I had spent the limited $65,000 bucks, I was committed, man. I had no way out of it, had to do it. After I maxed out my own credit cards and put the business together, I was committed. And if you're not ready to embrace economic pressure, not just accept it, but embrace it, you're going to have a miserable life as a business person or as an entrepreneur. Number 4. Never settle. Listen, everywhere you look are people, and everybody's great. I love them all. But you know what? Not everybody's a great CFO. Not everybody's a great designer. Not everybody's even a great receptionist. And if you think they're going to finally become one after they've let you down, you're wrong. Listen, you know, you got to take your friends and your family as partners in the beginning sometimes to get going. I know I did. Some of them have been great. You got to hire people when you need people. Sometimes you just got to pull the trigger. But you should never ever stop seeking out greatness. Because if you're able as a business leader to get every person on that bus, you know, from your receptionist to, you know, your $7 an hour employees in your retail stores like mine, if you're able to get every one of them to be awesome, you're going to have an awesome organization. There's no doubt about it. If anywhere along the way, you know, there is waste, there is incompetence, you've got to root it out, and no matter how much you love those people, no matter how, you know, how much they've done for you or devoted to you along the way, you've got to be willing to be a little bit ruthless and demand greatness one way or another. And that's just the way it goes. Sometimes people just got to go. And you can't hesitate, because to keep them around in a situation where they're not producing or they're not living up to their expectation, even if they don't know it, is really a disservice to them anyway. All right, rule number 5.
This is cool down here.
All right, rule number 5. You have to seek out argument, okay? And you know, it sounds a little bit mean, it sounds a little bit, how do I say? I don't know. It sounds a little bit prickish, I guess. But the truth is I love these great people that I hopefully am able to get around me to be able to go toe-to-toe with me and tell me that I'm crazy, you know? Because I'll tell you what, my rule of thumb is, my idea, my way of doing things is right until you can explain to me why I'm wrong. Until you can, in an intelligent manner, tell me why I'm crazy. Tell me why your way is better. And I love that argument. And people mistake it, you know. I mean, I'm so, sometimes I think stubborn and pig-headed, and I argue my own cause. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm trying to get you to convince me so that I can take my already good idea and make it better with your criticism. But you know, people don't get that, and only great people do. And that is the hardest thing, is to be able to find people that are willing to understand that your seeking out argument is not a negative thing, it's a positive. Because what you end up with is you end up with an outcome that's even better than the original idea, which was already good to begin with. And that is so hard to find. But that is the key to great ideas, is not only having one, but be ready to take the criticism to make it even better. And you know what? If you're not getting any criticism, if you're not getting the argument you need, then stick with your gut, go with your first instinct, and make the decision. And always be ready to make that decision, because decision by committee sucks. Decision by committee gives you grayness. When everybody's got to vote, when everybody's got to, you know, give their opinion, and you've got to try and make everybody happy, the outcome's going to suck. When you're able to you know, listen to all the arguments, understand what your original motives were, and then make a decision, you're going to make the best decision that there is. And it's always going to work out, and it always has. And a decade later, after everybody thought that I was nuts for filling a sack full of foam and trying to make a business out of it, we're still kicking, baby. In fact, we're blown up. We just opened 2 stores last week. I'm opening a movie theater in Dallas, the biggest media room in Texas, filled with LoveSac furniture from the front to the back. And LoveSac will become a world brand, and having a great time doing it. I'm Shawn D, signing off from Stamford, Connecticut. Business is a contact sport, it's not for pansies. It's what I believe, and that's just the way I do it. Rock and solid.